Okay, let me share my screen. So everything look okay?
I think we're good.
Can
Looks
see
good
my
for me.
page? Okay.
Oh, hold on,
Yes.
Jamie. I was supposed to tell everybody if my internet is sketchy, it's just me. It's not you. Little late.
Actually, I could hear pretty much all of that really well.
Oh,
So good
good.
timing.
Sorry. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So everyone, it looks like everyone is already muted. Perfect. Let's keep it that way. And then Elke is going to look out for questions and let me know if there are questions. This presentation is video heavy. There are a lot of videos because I don't know how to explain how to train without them. So just a fair warning, if anything seems boring, I am not offended. This is also designed so that people can go and review the recording later on and get the most out of it. So that being said, my name is Jaime Clifton. I am a certified feline behavior and training specialist. And there we go. I'm also Fear Free certified. Cat rescue is my jam. I'm all about cat rescue. I am holistic focused. Everything that I do comes from that lens. Currently, I've got 3 cats and 2 foster cats, which you'll see in a moment. And my dream is to have an in-home cat sanctuary and rehab program for cats. My passion is working with the fearful and under-socialized populations. Some of this is a little repeat from the pet talk from last year, but why do we want to clicker train? There's lots of reasons. It's not only fun and enriching, it provides a bonding activity between the cat and the human, builds trust and confidence. As a result, it decreases depression and anxiety, which is huge. A lot of people who complain about cat behavior problems, which to me, problems is a construct. I don't like that word when describing cats, but training relieves a lot of those complaints that humans have. It makes your life easier, reduces fear and aggression, and punishment actually worsens the cat-human relationship. So that's why we do training instead. So what is cooperative care? It's about what is most comfortable for the individual animal. It teaches the learner, and I use the word learner because when we are training with an animal, they are the learner. It teaches them what to expect, how to be more comfortable in a variety of situations, including the vet, with restraint, with injections, receiving fluids, you name it. And there's an organization called Fear Free that certifies professional trainers like me, veterinarians, vet clinics, groomers, and it's fearfreepets.com if you want to check it out. I can't remember off the top of my head how many of their resources are free to the general public, but check that out for more information if you are interested.
Jamie, they actually, they have like different versions. They have like sheltering fear free, and then they have fear free.
Oh, that's
for
right,
the
they
owner.
do.
Yeah, so definitely
Yes,
they
good.
have a Facebook page that you can join. And I have shared the link to that website with friends and family because I think it's so amazing. Like, you know, it really is so eye-opening. You can actually even get certified in fear free if you want it, which I am, if you want to spend hours getting certified, but it's so educational. And if you have the time, I would recommend doing it. It's going to really strengthen the relationship with your pets. So I recommend
Thank you
people
for, yeah, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Thank you for jumping in with that. And there's also some really great resources such as the fear, anxiety, stress scale that shows you how to recognize that with both cats and dogs. So there's a lot of great resources on their website. I try to share it on here and I didn't know how to add that. So it was not the right format. But today we're covering just a few. I had to pick because it's already going to be over an hour. So we're doing go to mat because it's extremely versatile. Scale weigh-ins because everyone needs to be able to know, you know, how much their cat weighs at some point. Nail trims, brushing, combing fur, and carrier training, which is huge. That's the longest video. And then we already talked about this, so skip. And the star of most of my videos is this little lady right here. They're currently in my office. You probably, oh, she just jumped up on my desk. You might catch glimpses of her. This is Soul, this is Charlie. I'm fostering them for an old client. Long story I won't get into, but they're available for adoption. And you might hear me mentioning a couple of times through the presentation, desensitization into counter conditioning. I can't remember how often I use it. I'm just throwing that up there. That desensitization is the gradual exposure of a stimulus that might be scary or unpleasant. And what we're doing is making that pleasant to the learner. So for example, if you're going to be moving to Florida or somewhere that has a lot of thunder and lightning, then you could get the cat used to the sounds of thunder gradually at a very low volume, and then over time to prepare your cat for that. So that's one example. Counter conditioning is when a cat already has a fear response or negative association with something, and we're going to try to change their emotional state to not be fearful of that anymore. An example would be a cat who hates the carrier because he was previously forced into one. And that is most cats that I come across. So this is super useful. And their DS and CC are very often used together in training. They go hand in hand. And then just as a caveat, to do everything today, there's no way I'd be able to also include cat body language. So I have a really, really great resource that's totally free here from Maddie's Fund. And I went through this a few years ago when I was first getting into cat behavior, and it really helped me a lot. And then just a note, there's something called fear threshold, and that's the point at which your cat perceives a stimulus to be threatening. So this is why it's so important. Like this particular training session, like what we're covering today is so important to really read and understand cat body language, because otherwise you're not going to be successful, most likely, especially if you're doing something that involves grabbing or restraining the cat. We need to work our way up to that. And if your cat's uncomfortable and you push that a little bit too far, it's going to backfire most likely. And then you're going to have to do a lot of counter conditioning. So that is a really big disclaimer, is to really understand what your cat's telling you. Just a couple of reminders that I covered in the last pet talk is to manage your environment to the best of your ability. I can't tell you how many times the trash truck has come while I've trained, and I should memorize the schedule, but I don't. But do your best. Manage your feeding schedule. I don't know how to train with cats that are free fed. That's one of the first things that if I take on a new client, getting them on a regular schedule so that we're training when they are hungry. So that makes your life easier. And then, and that also feeds into what is reinforcing for your cat, because if your cat is filled up on, kibble all day, then your cat may turn his nose up at some roast chicken breast. And you're like, what? Why would my cat not want that? Because he's full. So but it does also really help to have super tasty reinforcers. I mostly work with churro, so you'll see a lot of that in the videos. What is duration? Duration is the length of time your cat can stay and maintain a particular behavior. So for example, if your cat is going to walk, if the behavior is for your cat to walk over to the mat and sit down, then the duration is how long will your cat stay on the mat. And that's something that you train. My videos don't really cover that a lot, but there is a handout that everyone will get that has the training steps. And that's going to be a really useful tool, because the videos alone aren't going to help you exclusively. So, but going back to duration, in cooperative care, duration is key, because they need to be comfortable with like a paw being held for longer and longer time. Or, if you're giving fluids, they need to be comfortable in that position. We're not covering fluids today, but you can apply everything you're learning today, and you could easily, work on holding your cat's scruff and, getting them comfortable, and then releasing and rewarding for staying still for that. So, yes. Okay, next. And also a big caveat, or just heads up, that go at the pace your cat is most comfortable. These videos are definitely expedited, and very frequently I'm doing 20 or even more training sessions. The carrier training video at the very end, there's so many different clips in that, and I've done close to 20 training sessions, and with this cat in here, and we're not even at the end yet. So it takes a while, got to be patient. So let's talk about our first behavior, which is go to mat. There's a couple ways to do this, And I typically just start training with the mat itself. I use this silicone Ore mat is my preferred mat for training. It is easy to roll up, it's easy to disinfect, it's easy to smear treats onto it and then wipe up later, which makes it nice, very versatile. So there is 2 ways that I've included on the handout that you'll receive. And one is to just start with a mat itself, and then the second one is the folding method. And the video today is covering the folding method because I think it's a little bit easier and more user-friendly. And just a key note, pick up the mat and put it away when not in use. You want it to be like a magic carpet, magic mat. You don't want it to stick around and the cat goes and sits on it while you're in the bathroom and it loses some of its magic. So always lift up when you're not using it. And this behavior has so many applications. Just a few of them are, well, everything that we're covering plus cat-to-cat introductions, it can be used for that. So that's just a few amazing things that it can help with. So again, this video, a bit long, and this is probably my least glamorous video, so I apologize. I got a little fancier later on with the editing, but let me go ahead and turn up my volume. And sorry, the pace isn't amazing, but it's good information. So hopefully you guys will be very helped by it.
I'm gonna toss a treat on the other side of the blanket. I'm positioning myself right here, so she has to cross the blanket to get to me. Click when she goes onto the blanket and deliver the treat onto the blanket as well. When she's finished eating the treat and is paying attention, then I'm gonna toss another treat away from the blanket to reset. A very small piece, just enough to get her off, and then click when she gets back onto the blanket and comes toward me. Good girl. Girl. And one more reset. You can also call your cat over to you if you need to. And then click and treat and give the treat on the blanket. For this next step, my criteria is going to be for Soul to come all the way onto the blanket. And if she sits, it's going to be a bonus, and I'm going to give her a jackpot of treats. So I'm going to reset. I'm going to wait till all 4 of her paws are on the blanket to click. Good girl. Good girl. I'm going to wait a moment. See if she offers a sit. Almost. So I'm going to go ahead and reset again. All 4 on the blanket. Good girl. If she sits, she'll get a click and extra treats. Oh, good girl. That was almost a full sit. Good job. Good girl. I'm going to reset. Good girl. All 4. And let's see if she sits. And a sit. There we go. So right at this stage, I am reinforcing her not only for getting all 4 paws in the blanket, but she will earn an additional click and a treat if she chooses to sit. Your next criteria is going to be wait until she gets all the way onto the blanket and offers a sit. So we're upping the ante. So the next criteria is if she gets all the way onto the blanket and offers a sit. I'm gonna wait and see if she offers. Oh, good girl, and she did. That was very good, Soul. Good job. Good girl. All right, I'm gonna reset. And try again. We're gonna click the moment the bottom hits, the moment she sits, the moment her bottom makes contact with the blanket. All right, she's not quite ready for that. So I'm gonna reset. And I'm gonna try it again. All right, so at this point, it's not quite registering. So let's reset, and then when she comes back, I'm going to click when she gets all the way onto the blanket. We're gonna set her up for success. And then bonus treat if she chooses to sit on top of that. Oh, good girl. Especially since she likes to sit down, offer a sit oftentimes when she has her treat. It gives me an opportunity to reinforce that. Perfect, good girl. Okay, let's reset. Go get it. Good girl. Good job. And sit. She's going in for the sit. Nice. So your cat will get the hang of this. It just takes a little bit of patience. Reset. I am gonna wait this next rep. I'm gonna see if she offers a sit first. Good girl. That was perfect. Because she got it, I'm gonna give her a bonus treat. Nice work, good girl. Good girl. And reset. Since she got it that time, let's see if it was intentional enough to do again. So my criteria is going to be the sit. And bingo, good girl. Awesome. So now that she successfully got 2 sits in a row, I'm going to work on having that be the criteria for this level. And each time I reset, I'm gonna expect a sit. And if for some reason she gets confused, then we will go back to where she was last successful. Once your cat solidly has the hang of getting onto the blanket and sitting down, you can then fold the blanket in half. Wait for your cat to come over to you and see if your cat offers a sit. If not, you can go back to the getting all reinforcing for having 4 paws on the blanket and then a bonus treat if the cat sits. But I like to wait a minute or two and see if the cat can use their brain and really get the hang of it. Sometimes we just need to be patient as humans and give them an opportunity to do what we are asking. Each time they return to the blanket, again, you're going to click when the cat's bottom hits the ground, bottom hits the floor and sits. And then you're going to toss a small piece of treat to reset, or if your cat does not like solid treats and only likes gravy or pieces of wet food, then you will lure your cat away from the blanket and offer a little tiny piece of that or lick of that. Once your cat has mastered that last step, fold it in half yet again. If you've got a smaller blanket like I started out with, then this is going to be a relatively small piece by this point in time. Again, I like to observe the cat, see if they're going to offer that sit, because by this time they are very used to the blanket and they're used to sitting in order to get the treat. They're just not used to the size. So I give them a few opportunities to get the hang of it before I decide what my criteria is. There we go. You'll see that she's a little bit confused, so I decided to modify my criteria to just reward her for getting onto the blanket at all. And if she sits, it will be a bonus treat. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Petting is very reinforcing for Soul, so that can serve as a bonus for her as well. And then I reset. Here we go. Give her, reinforce her for getting all the way onto the mat. Or I'm sorry, blanket. And a bonus, a click and treat for sitting. Girl. Reset. Make sure the cat sees you reset. And I'm gonna wait a minute and see if she gets it. I'm trying to avoid direct eye contact because I don't want to be distracting. Good girl. Good job. Good job. Good job. Reset once more. I'm gonna see if she's able to sit. And she was, yay! So now this next time I am going to set my criteria as having her sit. And I'm gonna hope that it works again. And bingo. So you can see this particular cat just takes a little bit of relearning or reinforcing at the beginning with each step, if that makes sense. So going back to the basics of each step, and then she picks it up really fast because it is muscle memory. And I don't have to teach her brand new from the start each step. It's just, it takes a few times of repetition, and then she totally gets the hang of it. Oh my goodness. Now what I'm going to do is take my silicone Ore mat. You can use any kind of mat you want. I just prefer the silicone ones. And I am going to place it right on top of the blanket and see what she does. I'm going to see if she'll sit on it. If she doesn't want to sit on it, I'm going to reinforce her for standing on it or even putting some paws on it. There's a possibility that she won't like the different feel on her paws because it's a new texture, it's a different temperature. Every single substrate has, or material, fabric, etc., has a different kind of temperature to it and feel. So I might have to get her used to this mat in that way. Oh, good job. I also want you to note that you don't have to use a training mat. You can continue using the original folded blanket that you started training with. If the cat prefers it, then do that, especially, or if it's more convenient for you. I just like training mats because the silicone mats, because they are so easy to clean. I can smear food on them. They're easy to roll up. They're more versatile for me. So if the cat is open to using that, then that is my preference. They also fit perfectly inside of a hard-shelled carrier. So I sometimes like using them when introducing carrier training. Girl, right down here. Good girl. Good girl. So at this point in time, it's clear that Soul is comfortable being on top of the silicone training mat. So what I'm going to do is each time I reset, my criteria is going to be for her to come all the way onto the mat and sit down. Once she's done enough repetitions of this, and it's different for every cat, I prefer to do at least 20, maybe even 30 repetitions, and break this up into several training sessions oftentimes, then once the cat gets this, gets the behavior correct at least 80% of the time, then I feel comfortable moving on and setting a new criteria. So now you can ditch the blanket completely and test out whether the cat is going to go all the way onto the mat and sit as you've just been practicing. And remember to be patient, give the cat a chance to be successful. You can see here's one big reason I really like the training mats, because I can put liquid, gravy, wet food, whatever onto the mat, and it's really easy to wash later or just wipe up. And then the cat can lick it right off of the mat. It can also help with building duration by letting the cat lick the mat itself, because it keeps the cat stationed on the mat. To be fully mat trained, your cat needs to understand that no matter where the mat is placed, that the cat goes to the mat and sits down. Up until this point, the cat has been training in one stationary place. So I like to move the mat a few inches in one direction and see if the cat gets the hang of sitting in the new place and entirely on the mat. I give the cat a few times to get this correct before I start shaping the behavior.
Good girl.
It's important to have patience.
Good girl.
Now, you don't want to move it too far too quickly. You want the cat to be super successful. So if you have to move the mat a centimeter each time, then do so. Once your cat has completely mastered moving to each new location, every time you move the mat a few inches away, go to several feet away each time, then go across the room, then go to a different room, and just try it little by little. And always pick up and put away your mat when not in use.
All right. If anyone has questions about that, totally happy to answer them. I know it was a long video, but it's also so important to go slowly and be deliberate with mat training. So that was a longer one. The next one's much shorter, I promise. But you can also see why it's so important to be patient with the training. One of the biggest mistakes I see, and it's usually with people with dogs. I work part-time at a pet store, and people give the cue over and over and over again. And what they're doing is diluting that cue, when really if they give it once and give that animal or the learner a chance to respond to it, it's really powerful to do that. So that's why I'm really patient and I wait in between to see if the cat's going to offer it.
So Jamie, do you have a couple of questions? And then also, like for me, because I have unstable internet, and sometimes when you share videos, it can be a little like jumpy. And so your voice wasn't matching the action.
Oh, no.
But which is fine, but it's important. Timing is very important with your treats and your clicker. So the treats,
yes.
So I think maybe I know we were hoping that they watched the clicker training, but like I would hear a click and then like a 2 seconds
so what
later,
I can
sit.
Yeah, what I can also do is I have these videos unlisted for now, but what I can do is send a separate email with links to all of the YouTube videos. So I'll make sure that I do that, and then it can be rewatched or with the separate videos.
It's just, that timing is everything with that clicker. So Patricia's question is, do you need a separate mat or blanket for each cat?
You don't, as long as they're comfortable with the scent of that other cat. However, if you're going to be working with multiple cats at the same time, then yeah, you would need different mats. But I use my silicone mats interchangeably with my cats, and they don't have any problem with it at all. I do have to be careful. I guess that could be answered in a couple of ways, because for one thing is because I interchange the mats, if I go to train with multiple cats in the same room, there will be competition. So I train separately. However, if you want to be able to train with multiple cats in the same room or at once they are individually mat trained, then I would use something that looks a little bit different or feels a little bit different or different sizes for each cat so they know that's theirs. I hope that answers that.
And then Vani is saying that her cat prefers the churu and rarely takes kibble. Any suggestions for how to get her to take those for training?
To say so
if you're throwing the
kibble. Like churu?
Yeah.
I'm actually using freeze-dried treats. I'm using, in which I would recommend trying out, and especially if you use chewy.com or your local independent pet store, they usually have really great return policies. And if your cat doesn't like it, you can return it, but get a small bag. But I tend to use freeze-dried treats. I never use kibble because I hate kibble. So I use a high value, just meaty freeze-dried treat.
And then Betty is wondering if the mat can be purchased at a pet store or where.
Ooh, good question. I actually just started selling them on my website because I am brand new to Shopify and I have an account. So you can go to thekindredcat.com and I have 5 different colors available. I think $14 plus shipping. So you can do that. But if you, but again, any silicone, any kind of mat will work. I've used regular placemats from Ross too. I just decided I really like the Ore brand, so I want to carry it for my clients.
And then Lisa's wondering if this technique could be used to teach them to lay on the couch with you.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yes. Especially if you build duration, then they might be willing to stay up there longer and longer. Definitely.
Okay, that's it. And I turned off my video because things were getting sketchy for me. So.
Okay. And that's, bummer that the sound and that the visual aren't completely simpatico, but again, I will make sure that I send the individual links to those videos so you guys will have them so you can see the exact timing. Yes. Okay. So so the next behavior is scale weigh-ins, which once your cat is mat trained, this is a cinch. It's a walk in the park. So I always use my training mat. And if for some, you'll see in a moment, but if for some reason the cat is hesitant because, your mat's going to be covering the cat scale or the baby scale, and it is a slightly different feel because it's, 1 to 2 inches off the ground. So if for some reason your cat is a little sketched out with that, just use shaping to get your cat closer and closer back onto the mat.
With your scale on the floor, on a solid floor and not carpet or rug, place your training mat and cue your cat to sit. Wait several seconds, then click treat.
I guess I can't be muted.
The reason why you're going to need your cat to stay still for several seconds is because it takes as long to get an accurate reading on the scale. Lure your cat away in order to reset. You can also accomplish this by tossing a treat.
Oh, and let me pause for a sec and just say that on the training handout that you'll get, it goes over pairing the cue because I didn't get to that in the video. It was already long enough. But once your cat responds to the cue, and my cue is mat, then you can always cue your cat to go onto the mat anytime that you want. But again, that is in the handout. Apologies that it's not covered in the video.
So you can see that all you're going to do is repeat this behavior. Repeat by cueing your cat onto the mat. In my case, I asked my cat the word mat. And it's as easy as that. Most cats are going to adjust beautifully by getting onto their mat on top of a scale. If for some reason your cat does not, just be patient. You may need to use shaping, the shaping technique in order to get your cat closer and closer to the scale. So reset your cat, reset your cat, turn the scale on and zero it out. and then re-cue your cat onto the mat.
Okay, holding still. Said 10.3 pounds. Good boy.
You can either reward your cat
I'm going
by giving him a
to
treat
reset
on
him
the
and
mat,
reset the scale.
or you can toss a treat away.
Get
Either way, you're going to need to lure your cat
working
away
at
from the
an
scale so you
weight
can then
here. It's 10.3.
tear the
Okay.
button,
Good.
or
Mat.
you know, there's a button on in the scale that says tear, which means to reset it.
Good boy.
The reason you want to do that and reset your cat a few times and get several weights is because cats usually don't hold perfectly still while they're sitting. You can see that Yeti's tail is swishing back and forth, and that affects the reading. When you're done, try to distract your cat and pick up the scale so it doesn't seem
Supposed to say, so it doesn't seem like it's something fun that you're taking away from your cat. So any questions about that? Sorry for the weird talking overness.
Oops, I'm talking with my mic on. I don't see any questions, but if anyone has any, oh, there we go.
Oh, and just a little heads up with the go to mat, with the scale, I can put down the scale and that cat, he's one of mine, Yeti, he'll just go right onto the scale by itself because it's been paired with the mat so many times that he's very excited to get weighed.
Do you take the mat with you?
With me,
To the
like
vet?
where are you? Oh, to the vet? Yes, we do actually. Yeah, because it's the mat, the presence of the mat itself is pretty highly reinforcing to this cat. So at the vet, he is kind of feisty. I definitely could be working with him more on handling, but as long as he's got something to do, like if you ask him to sit or go to mat or give a high five, then that distracts him, and it kind of brings him out of his feisty state of mind. Usually if they did have to just restrain him, then giving him a task to do and then being rewarded for it, yeah, it's very reinforcing for him.
And then how do you increase duration?
So it's I don't really need to go back. So I do talk about, I think, duration a little bit on the handout, but what I do for, either for mat or for scale, it doesn't matter, for both, I cue him on and then he sits, and then I wait 1 to 2 seconds, and if he's still there, I can click and give a treat. And then you would do that, 10 times, however many times. Every cat's different. Yeti picks things up really quickly, and a lot of cats are kind of lazy and they'll just sit there. Tula's kind of lazy. You'll see her in the nail trim video up next. She likes to sit, so she'll go anywhere and sit for like 5 minutes, and I can just be like, hey, good job. So but if you've got a cat that's kind of antsy, then you're going to need to work on building duration, and it's just second by second at a time. So you wait until they are seated for, just 1 second, and then click and then treat and then reset. And then once they've mastered that, then you can go to 2 seconds. And then once they've mastered that, you can go to 3 seconds. There is a good video on YouTube. I don't know how easy it is to find. I feel like I talked about it in that video in the training last year, but Marilyn Krieger talks about, oh, you know what? It's in her book. It's not up there. There's a book called by Marilyn Krieger, Clicker Training for Cats, something like that. She talks about building duration by using 1 Savannah, 2 Savannah, and I think it's a really good explanation. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, that's it. We can move on.
Okay, cool. So trimming nails is a huge one. I don't know many people whose cats like nail trims. There's multiple ways to trim nails, and my whole thing is just go with whatever you're comfortable, or whatever your cat is most comfortable with first and foremost. And then if your cat is versatile, go with what's most comfortable for you. You can use a training mat. You can do it with your cat in your lap or next to you. You can use clicker training. I find that to be the most reliable method. Or you can use distraction, which you'll see in a moment. And this is a huge one, which most people I run into break this rule. But if you want your cat to be comfortable with nail trims and handling, then hands are not toys. Use gentle handling around the cat or kitten always. So here's a good example of distraction with Yeti.
We're gonna try this. I want you to just feed him little bits at a time.
My partner is helping
Hold it
me.
up here for me. Face me. Good boy. Good boy. Hard to see on this side.
You can see that he is so reinforced by the treat that he really doesn't care what I'm doing. So for Yeti, this is the method we always use doing nail trims because it's so much easier for us and he loves it. So if it's not broke, no need to clicker train.
Okay, that's
Okay. And here is the formal clicker training process, which I absolutely had to do with my cat Tula. Years ago, before I knew anything about cat training, I would get like hover over her and kind of pin her and try to do it that way. And I got scratched and I got bitten. And I was like, there has to be an easier way. So here's the easier way. It just takes patience.
For this method, start with a high five. If your cat doesn't know high five, you can refer back to the pet talk from 2020. And because your cat will already know stationing by now, you can ask your cat to sit on the mat and then ask your cat to give a high five. A lot of cats really enjoy high-fiving, so give your cat a bit of a warm-up by making them successful with giving a bunch of high fives. Once you're ready to go, start to move your hand down to the side. Go incrementally. If your cat does not try to high five you with your hand positioned to the side, then just do it slightly, just a few degrees downward. But ultimately, you're going to be working your way so that your hand is faced downward and your cat's high-fiving you for there. So then your criteria is to get your cat to hold their paw on your hand for 1 or 2 seconds. I also want to note I'm only reinforcing her for working with her right paw. You're going to do one paw at a time so as not to be confusing. She tried to give me her left. I waited and then I let her give me her right. Sometimes I will take my hand away so that she can shift gears and try to offer me the other or the correct paw that we're working on.
ready. Good girl.
New criteria is going to be to lightly touch the top of the paw with your thumb. It's really important to observe the cat's body language with this because it might be surprising and uncomfortable for them. So you may not be able to make contact right away, and you can start with the motion of hovering over their paw and reinforcing them for being calm. But if your cat's okay with touching the top of the paw, then the moment you make contact, if your cat remains calm, click and treat. So again, offer your hand. The moment your thumb makes contact, if your cat's calm, click then treat. New criteria is to hold the thumb over your cat's paw for up to 1 or 2 seconds. You could go longer than this. Not at first. At first, your goal is 1 to 2 seconds, but you can extend this for 5-second holds once your cat is totally comfortable with it. It doesn't matter how long you go, you just need to make sure your cat's comfortable.
Girl.
And again, always watch your cat's body language. So now you're going to push gently on your cat's paw pad to start to expose the nails. And the cat must be calm for this, otherwise they will not earn a click and a treat. So that's very important to go slowly, especially since this can be a little uncomfortable for cats at first.
Ready?
So even if it's just a very light touch, a very light push at first, if your cat stays calm, click and then treat. Make it really easy for them at first. But of course, the goal is to actually be able to expose the nails, so that is what you're going to work toward. This might take you multiple training sessions. Go at your cat's pace. Okay, so before we introduce the trimmers, you're going to need to know how to do a mouth click at this point. You're going to be ditching the clicker because you're not going to be able to hold the trimmers and click and be trimming and holding the cat's paw at the same time. It just won't work. So you're going to practice your mouth click, which I do something like this. And you're just gonna need to practice, but what I'm doing is I'm taking my tongue and I'm kind of clucking or using suction with the roof of my mouth. And you could do this, but my mouth doesn't like doing that. So I just do a sort of ticking noise and just practice that. Again, you're gonna wanna practice so that it is a consistent noise. It does not need to be loud. Cats can hear you perfectly fine. So you could even do a little tisk noise against the back of your teeth like this, if that works better for you. Whatever works, it doesn't matter. So you can practice that last step by using the mouth click, or you can do everything by using the mouth click. You don't need to actually use a physical clicker. So begin to practice that, and then you can move on to the actual trimmer portion. Next, you're going to introduce the trimmers by holding them out and letting your cat investigate them at his or her own pace. That could include licking them, sniffing them, rubbing against them, whatever your cat wants to do. And you can pair that with a treat at first. Then you want to get to the point where your cat is disengaging and you reward for that. That's what I like to do anyway. The last thing I want is for my cat to be rewarded for sniffing them, like targeting with them, because that's going to interfere with the actual nail trims itself. So I want my cat to disengage, and then I click and treat. Ask your cat, give your cue, which is your hand. Present your hand and ask your cat to, do a paw hold. And then you're just going to kind of lightly bring the trimmers up to your cat's paw. You don't need to touch it to them just yet. You can work your way up to that. And then you're going to click and treat if your cat is calm.
Good girl. Hello. Ready? You ready? Good girl. Ready? Good girl.
Once your cat has mastered this step, go ahead and you're going to actually try to push on the cat's nails enough to expose the tip and then trim off the very point. You saw that she went in for a little nibble there because she was uncomfortable. I waited until she stopped and disengaged, and then I went ahead and did my trim. So each time she's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not bad. So I'm just waiting till she, again, moves her mouth out of the way. I do my trim, and the second that I am clipping, I'm doing a little click and treat.
Ouchies.
And this is good to check out because this was the end of our training session, and she was very distracted, kept putting her face on the trimmers, wanting to sniff them, wanting to lick them, kept removing her paw. I could tell she was done and unfocused. And that's okay. It's important to recognize that. It's also really important throughout this entire training experience that the emphasis is on your cat offering their paw. And if they want to retract their paw, you let it go. You do not want to hold on to their paw and force it because that's going to be aversive and it can be punishing for them. The whole point is positive reinforcement and emphasizing their choice to participate or not.
Okay. Bye, girl.
I know there's probably questions about nail trimming.
Believe it or not, I don't see any unless somebody is contemplating what they want to ask.
Okay, anyone can jump in if they've got a question in a moment. I estimated this, but it probably took me about 15 training sessions to trim her nails. The reason why you saw me in the same outfit most of that, or the entire video, was because she was already nail trim trained. So this was more of like a recap. But yeah, it definitely was a process. That might have even taken me closer to 20 sessions. Just some general tips: keeping it positive, break up each step into multiple sessions. It's perfectly okay to do just 1 or 2 nails in one sitting, because that might be way better for your cat. And pro tip here: if your cat has a previous aversion to the trimmers, because of an aversion due to a previously bad experience, then really take your time to work on counter conditioning and make the presence of those trimmers a really positive thing. Even if it's 5 feet away and you're tossing treats around the trimmers and getting incrementally closer using shaping. The other thing you could do is, if the ones I was using are like kitten scissors, if your cat hates those because your cat was, you trimmed a little bit too far one time, or in the past you were like me where you were wrangling the cat and years ago and trying to do that way, I had to go slowly at first with those trimmers because Tula would run. So you could always use a different pair that doesn't elicit the same emotional response from your cat, and then go from there and make them a positive experience from that.
So Betty takes her cat to the groomer because she's afraid she's going to trim too much off. So she doesn't know how it's done because she can't watch. So kind of like when you watch your can't watch your pet get a vaccination. I close my eyes.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yes, I totally get it. This is still, you could still do this. And then I know people who are also afraid of trimming too far, and occasionally that happens to me. If I can't see really well and I was a little too bold and then I went into the quick, that's not good. Almost never happens, but once in a blue moon that happens to me. But what you could do is literally just trim those white tips, and you could do it every week. You could get to the point where you could doing a little bit every day, and you're just doing a little bit off the white tip every day, so you're not so uncomfortable. That will help with your confidence too. Okay, 2 more videos to go. We've got brushing and combing fur. It's important to select an appropriate brush. And since you guys will get this recording, and I actually have this on the handout too, all of this, so you don't have to refer back to this recording if you don't want to. But for kittens, I really like the Lil Pals brush. It's a super soft brush. So for young kittens, I like that, or boar bristle, which is pretty soft. If you're for fleas, I definitely would want to use a metal flea comb. The plastic ones are crap. They don't work that well. For long-haired cats who do not shed, I like using pin brushes or long bristles that are round at the end. And for shedding, for cats that shed, I prefer soft slicker brushes, but a stiff nylon or boar bristle brush can work as well. I am not a groomer. I do not groom cats. I brush cats and desensitize them to trimming off their dingleberries if need be. So I'm not well versed in all the brushes out there. But alternatives also include the Zoom Groom by Kong or a rubber curry comb. Those work by using a little bit of static electricity, and they grab the shedding portion pretty well. All right, let's watch Soul being adorable.
I have my metal flea comb, and Soul is already pretty interested. So I'm going to click and give her a little lick of churu every time she comes up to it. Good girl. So the first step is your assessment. You got to figure out your cat's comfort level with it. And you noticed right there that she batted at it. Let's see if I can get her to come this way. Come over here. This direction. Good girl. She batted at it. So I'm waiting until she puts her paw down, because if I reinforce her accidentally for batting at it or pawing at it, then it's going to make the combing process pretty difficult. So what I'm doing right now is just presenting it, and oh, look, she just decided to rub against it, which is awesome. Super awesome. I don't know why she keeps putting her back to this. There we go. There we go. There we go. So, she's totally comfortable with this, it seems, which is great, but I need to be able to flea comb her, and I want it to be a very pleasant experience. So I am going to present this to her, and I'm very gently going to try to start combing her face just a little bit, just so I can also show you how to brush a cat, not just using it with a flea comb, but any kind of brush. I like to start with the face because it's where their friendly feline facial pheromones are, and it makes it emits a pheromone that's very nice for them. So it feels good. So I'm going to present it to her nose, and I am going to reward her for letting me comb her cheek just a little bit. So I went down a centimeter or two, and she was good with that. I'm waiting till her paws go down. Good girl. Good girl. And then just another centimeter and give her click and treat. Good girl. Thank you. Waiting till her paws go down. Move this down a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to see if I can go a little bit further down her cheek. Wait till her paw goes down. Good girl, wait. There we go. Now she's self-combing, which is great because it means that she's really into it. And you can let your cat, you can start out your combing session with letting your cat self-brush, and you don't have to click and treat every time, because just like this, see that? That's reinforcing to her as is, which is great. So that's very nice. But if I was working with a cat that was not happy with this, or had never been combed before and was a little bit fearful, I would just take this in baby steps, and I would click and treat each time for the little increments until we worked our way a little bit further. But generally speaking, once a cat realizes that this thing is not scary, they like the cheeks and they like brushing the neck. The head and neck area is really nice. Good girl. Okay, so since she's really comfortable with her head, I don't need to clicker train in order to work with her head and neck area clearly, because she's very comfortable with it. So I'm gonna wait till she's done pawing at me. I'm gonna wait, and I'm not gonna go over her head. I'm gonna go to her side so she can see it coming, and she's got a chance to check it out and participate. Good girl. Got caught kind of on her collar there. There we go. Good girl. There you go. So I was able to go down her back just a little bit. And you see how I'm not pinning her down to brush her. I am letting her initiate this. So another way I can do is let her initiate with the head, and then I can go down the back, click and treat. Now this technique, even if you've got a cat that really likes to be brushed, you sometimes will have cats that like it a little too much, and they get overstimulated and then they go to bite. So clicker training for like this for those cats where you do one swipe down and then click and then treat is a really, really great technique with them, because it gives them a goal. They understand what they're going for, and it helps them to be less, I'm going to use the word reactive, but there's probably a better word out there, but they're going to be less reactive to it because they've got a goal in mind, and that's to get the treat. There we go. So you can see as I'm completing the motion, I am giving her a click and a treat. And I'm watching her body language. Let me put her down. Whoops, I accidentally clicked as I was doing that, so I'm going to give her a free treat. But if she decides to get onto the floor, I'm watching her body language to look at her tail to make sure it's not all of a sudden swishing too fast. Because if it starts flicking or swooshing to the side, side to side, or helicopter kind of motion, then I'm going to watch that, because that means that she might come back and try to put her mouth on me. So watch her body language there. Soul is a cat that I can pet her belly and she really loves it, and she will not get overstimulated. 99% of cats will get overstimulated, so I do not recommend rubbing your cat's belly. And if your cat is matted on their belly, then you're going to need to do clicker training to really work with them on staying calm to brush in that area. So Soul does have a little bit of debris on her hind area. I have shaved her recently for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to brush that off, and then just one little brush at a time. I got one little piece of, it's like a piece of litter. I just got one little piece off. Great. Good girl. I'm going to wait till she's lying down again, because that was a really easy position for me to be able to get to that. Good girl. Good girl. I'm going to go ahead and brush again. Good girl. I just got another one. You can see why this is so reinforcing for a cat like Soul, where she not only loves to be brushed, and she loves attention, and she loves food. So if I were to take the brush and I were to just push her and like pin her down and try and get this stuff off, it would become a really negative experience for her, and then she would probably start to run away from me whenever the brush came out. But because I'm going at her pace, I'm watching for her comfort level, and I'm pairing it with treats. This is so lovely for her, and she absolutely is loving it. So my point is that even with a nice cat that enjoys it to an extent, you could still have it backfire if you're not watching their body language or doing too much too fast. So I'm going to go ahead and get her little booty area again, click, and give a treat. Good girl. Good girl. And with brushing sessions, as with all training sessions, I always recommend keeping it brief and ending on a good note.
All right. Any questions about brushing or combing?
No, but Patricia said something interesting, that she had several cats who love to be brushed, but only on one side.
Oh, that is really interesting. I don't know if I've heard that before. I mean, there could be a good reason for it, I'm sure. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny, you just reinforced the belly conversation. We just had a cat training for the entire staff, and I mean, we always hear about body language and stuff. I don't know why the belly thing is never, I thought it was just like maybe a cat here or a cat there didn't like the belly rubbing, but sounds like most cats don't appreciate the belly, even though they're showing you the belly.
Yes, it is a sign of sign of trust that they expose their belly to you. And it's not that 99% of cats don't like it. It's that 99, I'm making up this statistic. The vast majority of cats either really don't like it, or they're just going to get very excited. And then it ends up being, okay, hands equals play equals place to bite. And then we are inadvertently training them to go after hands. And that doesn't make for a really adoptable cat. If you've got cats at home, and I mean, this makes me cringe when I see people playing with their hands with cats, but if your cat loves it and you don't care if you get thrashed, and you don't care if your company that comes over get thrashed, and you're 100% positive your cat is not, has somewhere to go if something happens to you and isn't just going to go into the shelter or need to be rehomed, then I don't really care. Do your thing. But I talk with everybody that I work with on a personal basis about, let's not do that.
Especially if you have children, because hands aren't toys, and it's hard to teach the.
Yeah. Ultimately, it comes to what your cat's preference is and your preference. But I will say most cats don't, they find it disrespectful to be touched in that area. But there are some cats that are excited by it. So then you've got Soul, who is an anomaly, and she's like, more. And it's like very rare. She's the first cat I've met that just really likes being massaged there. Okay, so this is our last stint, and this is like a 20-minute video, but I think it's pretty interesting. Hopefully you will too. So for carrier training, you're gonna start with your assessment. And I do use a PetMate top loading carrier as my preferred training carrier of choice. It's 2 feet long, or 24 inches long, which is a perfect size, I find, for a cat to be comfortable, turn around in, but not too big for me to carry. So with the assessment, I'm not going to talk too much because I'm going to cover this in the video. And I actually cover pretty much all these in the video. You'll note that I did not use the training mat in this video, and it's because I have not formally mat trained Soul after the carrier training. I started with carrier training first, but I don't know. I did things backwards. Couldn't tell you why.
So what I'm gonna do is, hi, good girl. You want to see what I have? Oh, good girl. I have a top loading carrier here. Is that noise weird? Here you go. I'm opening up the top. I've already taken the front off, and I'm gonna test a couple of things. I have some Feeling Natural food, which I'm using as treats. I'm gonna show her this, and I'm gonna put a little in the carrier, see if she'll go in. Nice. I'm gonna show her a little more in the carrier. She's going even more in. I'm gonna drop some down in the end there. She backed out again. Let me show it her. There we go. I'm gonna lure her in and drop it and let her go get it on her own time. Perfect. Here's another method you can use, is you can use your churu, and you're putting your hand through the top, like the moonroof. Okay, I'm putting my churu, and I'm putting a smear at the back of the kennel, so she's now licking it off the back wall of the kennel or carrier. So this is a great assessment result. She's comfortable getting all the way in. If she wasn't comfortable getting all the way in, I might elect to remove the top and just put treats in it, a little bit every day for several days to create positive associations with it. Or if there wasn't any pre-existing fear with the carrier and it was just kind of didn't want to go in, then I might just keep the top on and throw some treats in there. So sometimes you just have to play around with it and figure out where the cat is comfortable.
And just to clarify, I mean this top shell as the top, not this gate. So I've worked with cats where I've disassembled the whole thing, and I've just made this a fun bed and area to play inside of at the very beginning.
And go from there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Feeling Natural freeze dry pieces, and I am going to lure her in, and then once she puts a paw inside of there, I'm going to click and treat. Good girl. And anytime she gets in a little bit more, she's going to get a click and a treat. Good job. Good girl. And if she decides to stay there for a moment, I'm just going to give her another bonus treat. Good girl. And now she's backing out and on her own time, and this is a reset. She reset it on her own, which is perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and lure her again. Good God, you want some of that? Click and set down the treat. She's staying, so I'm going to give her a bonus treat. Good girl. My goal is to get her all of the way in here, and this would not work for every cat. Some cats are going to take a lot longer than this to even get close to going inside the carrier, but this would be for just your average cat who's willing to go in but is not comfortable with travel training in general, or with travel in general. So her paw is all the way in, which is great. So I'm going to continue giving her some bonus treats. And she's backing out, which is fine. Good, so it's a natural reset. Good job. I'm actually going to wait a minute and see if she goes in on her own. And then she did, so click and treat as soon as she goes in. And I'm going to set down another treat. So my criteria, now she's backing out, natural reset there. My criteria at this point is for, now I know I can lure her all the way in there and that's fine, but my criteria is now for her to voluntarily get in on her own and put at least one paw inside, or even her head if she's not willing to put her paw inside. Okay, she stopped there. She put her head inside though, so I'm going to click for her head going in, because we really want to reinforce baby steps here. Good girl.
Let me just mention that the reason why I personally, and every single trainer is different, the reason I personally like to set the challenge at letting them enter voluntarily is because luring them doesn't create the same like level of figuring it out, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but when we stop luring when we no longer need to, and we let them try to figure out what the behavior is, it just cements a little bit better. So that's why I train in this way.
Good girl. So she went about halfway in, which is great. Good job. And then she was about to take another step in. Good job. I am going to show you what this looks like from the aerial viewpoint. Okay, so progress is going a little slow right now, so I'm going to go ahead and lure her and then offer her a treat. Good job. Another one for staying in there, why not? Good girl. Awesome. Good job. Good job. You're doing so well. Good job. If the cat is not consistently going in on his or her own at this point, that's okay. You can go back to doing a lure. One thing you might try is just scritching the back of the kennel. I don't know if you probably can't see very well, but you can tap the back of the kennel or scratch it a little bit and see if the cat will go in that way. Another technique you can do is to lure the cat in and drop a treat at the back, or put a little smear of churu on the back. Good girl. My next criteria that I want to accomplish or want to work toward is to get her to go into the carrier and turn around. I'm going to give her a little treat there because she did a great job. I'm going to watch her and see if she does it. Oh, she did. She came out really fast, but that's okay. So previously she'd been backing out. Sometimes you will get lucky and you will catch your cat turn around while they are inside of the carrier and go out the front way. Good girl. And but if you don't get lucky in that way and you want to, you need to turn them around because we're going to be feeding, we want them to be, front face in the carrier and be participating in what's going on, then you can, let me walk back through this. She's moving too fast for me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is when she goes into the carrier this time, I'm going to put my hand here, just right here, to get her to turn around, hopefully. Click. When she does turn around, offer her a treat at the front of the carrier. Perfect. I'm just going to wait and see if she offers that same behavior again, where she goes all the way in. Put my hand here. There we go. Good job. So I'm just very gently, she can feel my hand very gently on her, the fur at the tail. In no way is this punishment. She's very happy, very excited right now. Now that may not work for every cat. So what you could do is you could, when they get to the back of the carrier here, you could see if it works to quickly have them follow the churu or the treat in your hand, whatever you're using, to the front, so they can still see you doing that motion. Whatever works better for your individual cat, as long as they're not freaking out or seem miffed by it. So see how my hand, her head is coming out. She's watching me. I'm moving this quickly so she can see it go to the front of the kennel carrier. And there we go. Okay, I'm gonna try closing this again. And I'm gonna see if she gets in, turns around on her own, and I can just give her a treat at the front. A lot of patience in cat training. A lot of just testing where they're at. Good girl, there she goes. Oh, what a good girl. I gave her a bit of a longer lick that time because that was perfect. Good job. Good girl, you're so smart. Good girl.
She really wants to be petted. That's what she wants.
Good girl. Yeah, good girl. I'm trying to not engage her in petting too much because it distracts her and then she lays down. Like that. She loves it and I don't mind, but for the purpose of this video, I'm trying to move it along a little bit, huh? You're such a good girl. Okay, can we do that again where you come in? Can you come back here? Good girl. Can we turn around? No. Can we try it again? Good girl. Can we turn it around? Good girl. So I would continue doing this until she masters it. Going in on her own, turning around, receiving a treat at the front, clicking a treat at the front, and then she can come on out. And if she decides to stay in there a few seconds longer, I'm gonna give her another little lick, because that helps later with building duration. Good girl, you're so smart.
Now you can begin to pair the cue. To do this, you're gonna wait until you're certain the cat's gonna go into the carrier.
Great.
And then you say the cue word and then click and treat as the cat completes the behavior. So you want the cat to enter the carrier first. And then once the cat is inside of the carrier, give the cue and then click and treat.
Great.
I recommend pairing the cue during multiple training sessions, at least 20 to 30 times, and then eventually you will test it to see if the cat responds to it. And if not, you'll go back and continue to pair the cue. This step can take a little while for cats to grasp.
As you can see, I have put the gate back on the front of the carrier, and we are going to train with the gate on. And we're going to see how she does with that. Hi. I know. Can you get inside? You're so silly. Get inside. So one of the things that that I like to do is to get the cat used to the sound of the gate squeezing, because that can be concerning for some cats. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this, I'm going to squeeze it and make the sound, and then as long as she stays calm, I'm going to try and be quick about this so that it's not surprising and scary for her, but my goal is to capture when she stays calm, and then click and treat for that. So there we go. So immediately she gets reinforced for that sound. Good girl. I'm gonna go ahead and do it again. Good girl. Good job. Now I'm not going to do this a whole lot because what I don't want to happen is I don't want the sound to confuse her. Good girl. And I don't want the sound to, oh boy, she's biting down on the churu. That is super annoying. I'm going to, let's see how best to do this. Sometimes I just have to go with it. Come here, babe. Come here, girl. I'm going to put a little bit of churu onto the kennel wall there. Right there. Can you see it? Good girl. Just at the door entrance. She's trying to figure it out. It's right there. Good girl. So what I don't want to happen is I don't want that sound to become the conditioned reinforcer like a clicker. So I don't want that sound of the squeezing to get confusing and have her think that every time it closes, she's gets a treat right then and there. So I'm only going to do it a few times just to make sure she's okay with that sound. Good girl. Go ahead, do it again. I'm watching her body language and making sure she's okay with it. She's not 100% sure about it, but she's getting a little bit more comfortable. So that's good. Good girl. Good girl. I'm gonna go ahead and do it again. Hi, that's my churu. Okay, here we go. Get your churu there. Here. Good job. I'm fairly certain that she's getting more comfortable with that sound. So I am going to move on and work with the gate, opening and closing when she goes in. Good girl. You going? Good girl. Give her a little freebie there. There we go. As you can see, I've kind of changed sides because I, for some reason, put the gate on that side, attached it at the left side, but no worries. She's easygoing and she doesn't care which side she licks. So, good girl. Good girl. I'm going to squeeze the gate again and I'm going to give her a little more treat because I'm just making sure she's comfortable. I can tell she's not 100% comfortable, but she's about 90% comfortable, so that's pretty good. He's pretty good, huh? There we go. I'm not even clicking right now. I'm just giving her some free treats. Good job. Good job. Enamours? Great.
Once you have established that the cat is okay with the sound of the gate squeezing closed, now you can start working on slowly closing the door. And you can also continue to work on your duration. So continue to reward the cat for deciding to stay in the carrier.
Good girl.
Here I'm about to test closing the gate, and she's a little uncomfortable, but chooses to go back in. So I click and give her a treat for making that choice. And then I'm going to test by going less than an inch at a time. If I can at all help it. And give her a click treat to reinforce every single time she chooses to stay inside while I close it a little bit more each time. Once you can establish that the cat is pretty comfortable in there, you can start to feed through the carrier door and see how that goes. Again, your cat is in control and your cat is choosing to stay in every time. If your cat wants to come out, you let your cat come out.
Hey, girl.
Once my learner has stayed in there a while, I like to open the door to allow her to come on out voluntarily if she chooses to. And then she can get a little pet or shake it off or go get a drink of water or go right back in if she so desires. Now that I've worked up to a good duration and comfort level, I'm going to go back to squeezing the gate and see if she's comfortable with that. She's a little uncomfortable, so I gave her a treat reward and open it up to let her come out and reset.
Okay, so I'm pausing it for a sec because this is as far as I have made progress with Soul with the carrier training. And I'll show you what it might, there's just a couple quick videos with Snowy, who I fostered last year. Now this cat, to put a totally different perspective on it, this cat I could not touch for the first month, and her sister I couldn't touch for the first couple of months. They were semi-feral. And through clicker training to socialize them, and it was also really important for me to be able to get them carrier trained in the carrier so that, you know, how else would I get a cat like her that doesn't like to be picked up or touched too much into the carrier? So this was the very first, you know, after petting and basic touch, and actually no, even before that we started carrier training. I take that back. So we made a lot of progress with it.
Travel.
Her cue was travel. You can see I'm using the mat with this, with her, I used the training mat.
Good girl.
So with her, I worked my way up to being able to open the door, and then she's not released until she hears a click, and then she gets a treat outside of the carrier. So there's multiple ways you could do this. That's just the way I like to do it, is have them wait until they're released.
Good job. Travel.
I think this is one where I show movement, getting her used to actually moving inside of the carrier. My voice gets really high pitched. And then if this is in the handout, you would gradually work your way toward being able to pick the cat up in the carrier, move around, go to the car, go to the vet. But you could see where it would easily be at least an hour-long video if I did all those things. So, okay, questions?
Okay, if you don't have a carrier that has the open top, do you just throw treats into the carrier?
That's a really good question. So I have not done that because my life is so much easier with the top loading carrier. So if you can afford to do so, I highly recommend trying that one, because it's just more comfortable for the cat, I find, as well, because they can see, you know, that you can throw in treats from the top, that kind of thing. If you really want to try it with like a hard shelled carrier that doesn't have the top loading gate at the top, you can administer treats through the front if your cat's okay with that, or through the little holes on the side or the back. You can lure your cat by sticking a little bit of churu through the holes in the back, or treats. But I just find that it makes training harder to use those types of carriers, at least initially. You could certainly start with that kind, and then if you don't prefer it, once your cat's comfortable with the lid on, then you could move to your regular carrier first. Most of the soft carriers are going, like the fabric ones, are going to already have the option to unzip the top. So you could do the exact same thing that I do with the top loading hard shell carrier with the fabric carrier.
So I'm going to skip Betty's question just so we can wrap up for folks that might need to leave, because she has a behavior question. So Bonnie's wondering, what kind of brand freeze-dried treats do you use? Are you recommending?
Yeah, I ultimately use whatever the cat likes, and I always have a small, you know, arsenal of treats. But my favorite to use by far are the feline natural. It comes in 3 flavors. There's a chicken with lamb. I don't even remember. There might be a beef. But those are my favorite for several reasons. One is that it's a complete food. So it's a balanced food, so that if your cat fills up on those treats, you could skip dinner if you need to. And number two, they're super easy to break apart into small pieces. So every piece is probably 3/4 of an inch long on average. And I break up each piece into probably 4 or 5 smaller pieces as I go. And they're really easy to break apart.
Okay, so that's it for crate training, and it looks like for clickers. So before we get to Betty's question, does anyone have any other questions for Jaime on clicker training or what you saw today?
And you can email me if you've got a follow-up question too. I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, so we'll make sure to get that in, well, obviously it's right in front of you, and we'll make sure to get you all of the information when Amelia gets back, because she's got camp again tomorrow. So you should be getting your follow-up early next week. And don't forget next Thursday's talk, common surgical procedures. And then if you're just fascinated with how animals learn, we have a positive training for horses talk next month. So it's really cool to kind of see, yeah, when you're like seeing the different species, how they very much are very similar, but then there's little nuances, of course, because they're different. But it might be really fascinating. It's our friend Lessa who's putting that on. So we'd love to see you all there. So Betty's question is, she adopted her cat from the Humane Society last August when she was about 4 months old, and she was terrified of people. We kept her in a bathroom and sat in there with her to help her adjust to our presence. Still, when she snuck out, she ran and hid under the couch. She is now accustomed to my husband and I, but runs from anyone new. She's never experienced that before. Also, sometimes she will do a mock bite, not actually clamp down, but strike out a bit. She can be a bit wild at times, back arched, hair up, racing. Hold on here. Racing. Oh, I lost it.
Sounds like she gets the zoomies.
Yeah, racing around the house, like something is chasing her.
Yeah.
She's really wanting help with the bite type of behavior, but that might be the whole perspective of her cat.
Yes. And you can use everything that you learned today to counter condition and get a cat comfortable to your hands. It would take too long for me to outline that. But number one, and this is a really big, philosophy for me, and this is why I renamed my business from Cat Happy Consulting, which no longer served me, to the Kindred Cat, because I really believe we need to look at our cat as a unique, spiritual, sentient being and meet them where they're at and say, okay, you're a cat, I respect you. What do you need from me? And so, of course, we don't want them to learn that it's okay to come and bite us if we don't like that. Some people do. I don't. And we want them to be comfortable with us. So what I worked with Snowy and Cinders, those two, I hate to do labels, but really they were like semi-feral kittens, and I couldn't touch them for a really long time. And when I was finally able to touch them as a result of training, like the tears came. I was so emotional. It was awesome. But I started with the mat. And so it sounds like this cat's a little more comfortable than they were, but just to kind of summarize what I did is I used the training mats and I fed them on the training mat. So they started to associate food with a mat, food with a mat. There was literally no condition for me, no criteria. It was just come onto the mat if you're comfortable. And once that probably took them a good solid week and a half to actually not be skittish and turn and run every time I breathed or made a move, or God forbid I sneezed. Sneezing really interferes with training skittish cats, by the way. But once they're comfortable being on the mat, then I was able to work on target training with them, which is I should have reviewed it, but I'm 99% positive, 100% positive I covered target training in last year's video. So check that out. But you can use your hand. So their nose touches your finger and they come to you and you just do targeting. And so hand equals good thing. And then eventually, once I had several weeks of target training under these kittens' belt, then I wanted to work on the skittish behavior because they would run anytime I got up, I got down, I moved. So then I would stand up and target train with them while I was just stationary standing there, and just my hand would move and then they come around. And then once they're comfortable with that, I would walk a step and then have them come to me. And I started to reinforce them for, staying where they were. So then I was able to get to the point after a few months where they were no longer run. If I walked into the room, they would not only come up to me, and always let the cat come to you, because cats are so different than a lot of other species. If you walk over to them, it can be terrifying. So get to the point where you're targeting, they're coming to you, they're being reinforced by that. And then if you do need to move and you have a cat that is uncomfortable with that movement, just slowly start to reinforce the cat for staying in the same place. These cats got to the point where they were flopped over and I would have to step over them and they wouldn't move. So it works. I hope that helps.
Yeah, she said, thank you.
Perfect. Good.
So then
It can be done. When there's a will, there's a way. The key is seriously patience. It takes a lot of patience. I'm just fortunate that I was born with it.
So thank you so much, Jamie. We really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for attending. Hope to see you again sometime. Bye.
Yes. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Woo-hoo. Bye.